Mr. Bovino, I want to talk with you next about another comment that you have made. You said on October 30 that from what you have seen, all of the uses of force by yourself and the men under your command have been more than exemplary, your words. You still stand by that?
Yes.
So when you tackled Scott Blackburn, as shown in the video marked for identification as Exhibit 8, that use of force on your part was more than exemplary?
Objective form lacks foundation.
As we talked earlier, that was not a reportable use of force.
Not a use of
placed
force.
him in under arrest. I didn't
Gotcha.
tackle him. I placed him under arrest.
Gotcha. When your men tackled Juan Munoz in your presence on October 3, as shown in that same video, that use of force was more than exemplary?
Objective form lacks foundation.
I haven't. There was no use.
Having looked at the reports, did you see any evidence that your men were confronted by violent rioters in Old Irving Park?
Yes.
You did. All of the uses, you've been at the Broadway ICE facility on several occasions since you've arrived in Chicago for Operation Midway Blitz, right?
Objective form lacks foundation.
Sorry, I'll restate the question. You have been at the Broadview ICE facility in Broadview, Illinois on a number of occasions since you arrived in Chicago for Operation Midway Blitz, have you not?
I have been to that location, yes, many
And
times.
you have seen uses of force.
Yes.
You've seen pepper balls being discharged at protesters.
Objective form lacks foundation.
I don't remember specific pepper balls being launched at demonstrators or protesters or whatever the word is. that
If
you
I
just
was
used.
to substitute the word violent mobs and assaultive individuals, would you acknowledge then that you've seen pepper balls discharged at folks at the Broadview ICE facility?
I have seen less lethal devices discharged at violent rioters and or assaultive individuals.
You have seen CS gas deployed at protesters at the Broadview ICE facility, have you not?
Objective
No.
form.
If I were to substitute the words violent mobs and assaultive individuals, would you acknowledge that you have seen CS gas deployed at the Broadview ICE facility?
I would say that I've seen CS gas deployed at violent rioters and assaultive subjects.
Correct. And you have as well observed as your men have deployed physical force against protesters at the Broadview ICE facility, have you not?
Objective form.
I've not seen our men or women deploy force against protesters.
Have you seen your men and women deploy force against individuals like Scott Blackburn and Juan Munoz, who you would characterize as violent individuals and assaultive individuals?
Objective form lacks foundation, mischaracterizes the testimony.
There has been, those individuals were taken into custody as they impeded, obstructed, and or assaulted federal agents and or law enforcement officers at the Broadview, at or near the Broadview facility.
And have you reached the conclusion that all of the tear gas, all of the CS gas that you saw deployed at the Broadview ICE facility, all of the less lethal munitions that you saw deployed at the Broadview ICE facility, all of the shoving and the takedowns that you saw your men and women engage in at the Broadview ICE facility, all of that was more than exemplary? Have you reached that conclusion?
I believe that all uses of force that I've seen and all arrests that I've seen have been more than exemplary.
Mr. Bovino,
Yes, sir.
I'm just going to ask you a few questions. That first, starting with Exhibit 26, which was the video that Mr. Bowman showed you a moment ago, and where he described the woman that was using the colorful language and taping your agents. Do you remember that?
Yes, the one here just at in Evanston there.
Did you observe anything in that video whereby your agents used force in any manner against the woman who was using, as you said, the foul language directed towards them?
I did not notice any type of use of force towards that woman or any other individuals exercising their First Amendment rights.
Okay, thank you. In terms of, do you remember there was a video earlier today, I think it was Exhibit 15, this is REL 148. They started at minute, I guess it was hour 11, minute 4. They showed it kind of start and stop through hour 11, minute 14. And then they took it down. It was images from Little Village. Do you remember that?
I do remember that, sir.
Okay, and how do you, what do you remember about the nature of the images that were depicted in the video?
What I saw there, and I remember that well because that's very indicative of what was happening. It was what was happening real time when a Border Patrol van full of detainees that was trying to get into the area was surrounded. We were trying to get to that beleaguered van, and we were met with a very, very violent and angry mob of individuals that did not want to allow us to, at that point, rescue those beleaguered agents that were surrounded by a very threatening and violent mob.
So what about you've said repeatedly today during the testimony the last few days, you referred to threatening, you referred to, and you've drawn distinctions between protesters and assaultive subjects. What about that the individuals depicted in that video lead you to conclude that they were, that lead you to describe them as a mob or as threatening? What about their conduct?
Object to the form of the question.
Sure. That those individuals were advancing on Border Patrol agents. They were advancing on Border Patrol agents while behind and amongst them there was a van that was obviously beleaguered, and then those individuals conducted activities like slashing tires with knives. In other words, bringing weapons out. The same thing that I was worried about when we talked about that less lethal deployment. They were bringing weapons out, smashing car windows, throwing rocks, becoming ever more angry and violent. It was not this was several minutes after I had deployed that less lethal, and they were becoming even more aggressive, violent, and trying to surround agents over and above the van they had already surrounded. And one more thing is I had noticed they had utilized a white van and some other vehicles to block a key intersection, a route of egress out of the area. And I watched that happen, which was indicative of a threatening, violent mob that was starting to amass against Border Patrol agents.
And that mob that I'm going to refer you to, and I don't remember the exhibit number, but this was a photo that Mr. Bowman, I guess it's Exhibit 23, Mr. Bowman showed you today. To what extent, if at all, was the nature of the individual, the mob that you're referring to from the video that Mr. Bowman showed you, where in this, where relative to what's depicted in this photo in Exhibit 23, would that mob or those individuals have been amassed?
Sure, and most of these individuals, after deployment of less lethal, moved down the street. So I'm going to draw an arrow there. There's another intersection down here, sir. This intersection is where that van was surrounded, and they called for help on the radio. So as we moved down towards that intersection, all of these individuals, plus the individuals already at the intersection, coalesced into one large mob of individuals that that, as I said, were getting threatening and doing things like slashing tires, throwing rocks through vehicle windows, and that type of thing. So it was about another block down here at this next intersection. We call that the plaza. That's what that was referred to as, the plaza.
Okay, and just taking one step back, and you could put that aside. You've drawn distinction today in your answers to Mr. Bowman's questions between protesters and what you would describe as assaultive subjects, violent rioters, or a mob. Could you just educate the court as to what you understand protesters to mean, and secondarily what you would then, let's just start. What do you understand protesters to mean when you're drawing that distinction?
Yes, sir. I would think a protester is an individual that is exercising their constitutional rights to speak their opinion, to speak their mind in a peaceful fashion, in a fashion in accordance with laws, rules, and with the Constitution. In other words, somebody voicing an opinion. That could be both sides of the issue. We get protesters on both sides of the issue. Sometimes they protest against, say, a Title VIII immigration enforcement mission, tell us they don't like it, we shouldn't be there, we need to go home, use very foul language oftentimes. And then there's also protesters on the other side of the issue that say, hey, you should be there, we're glad you're here, continue to be here. So I look at those as peaceful individuals exercising their right to, one, be there, and two, to speak their mind. It's freedom of assembly, freedom of speech.
And so let's then turn to us. Like, do you understand us when you were today? Were using the phrases assaultive subjects, or violent mob, or violent rioters? Do you understand those three phrases to mean the same thing? Are you referring to them kind of synonymously?
I am, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So what do you understand those phrases to mean generally?
Sure. Those phrases, to me, mean an individual that wishes to perpetrate violence or threats or some overt violent action towards another individual. In this case, it would be us in law enforcement. That could be anything from striking an agent, removing a mask from an agent. I'm drawing from things that I see every day on the streets, or that my agents see every day on the streets. Removing masks, kicking agents, grabbing agents' groins, assisting and abetting prisoners from escaping, shooting fireworks, knifing and slashing tires with weapons, throwing rocks through windows of vehicles to hurt agents and or detainees. It's a whole myriad of violent actions that I see against law enforcement officers conducting a lawful law enforcement mission.
How, if at all, does refusing a direction from an ICE agent impact your view of whether a peaceful protester is then in turn becoming an assaultive subject or mob or violent rioter? Like, what if any impact does a peaceful protester's refusal to follow an order from a law enforcement officer impact your view of whether they're properly exercising their First Amendment rights?
Object to the form of the question, lack of foundation for that.
Yes, sir. When someone refuses a lawful order from a law enforcement officer, especially in the situations that we've described, that's, in my view, in my opinion, as a career law enforcement officer, that's an indicatory element that that individual is potentially on that road to not following instructions, potentially obstructing, and it's something that's going to cause me to potentially take a closer look at that individual, because not following instructions is certainly one indication of someone that that's already ready to break the law, be where they're not supposed to be, and or more importantly, obstruct and or impede that law enforcement mission.
Right. And just, can you give me an example of what you would consider a lawful order that you're describing that would impede a law enforcement mission?
Sure.
Form and foundation.
You can go ahead.
Sure. For instance, we could go back to the violent crowd that we just looked at the plaza there in the picture that we looked at. Asking someone to clear the roadway so we can depart the area, which is what we were trying to do in that situation, and then those individuals saying, no, I'm not going to depart the area. Let's trap them in here. Let's get them trapped in here, and then calling for other people to come in and say trap us, or calling for vehicles to block our exits, things like this. That type of language that I believe that we're talking about here, that certainly does raise my suspicion and certainly amps up the level of threat by their language, and then resulting actions, if there's resulting actions, that would that would concern me. A vast gulf of difference between those individuals doing that and an individual exercising their First Amendment rights by telling me they hate me or they want me to get out of the area or F you.